give it a try. So, the topic too, as you see by the title, are the left losing? The second half is the second part is our progressives losing. Then the other topic is at the end is the vocal majority. I mean, vocal minority versus the silent majority. Now, everyone kind of knows what the online left is. They're like the people that they've been around since um like it's been discussed for a while. The inherent problem is right because I'm kind of a moderate right leaning person. Texas, right? We see it. Like if you look at our election cycle, prime example in the U.S. currently, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are arguably the most progressive candidates with social leaning ties to ever run for office, at least in the modern era. And this is something pretty much. She had one of the most progressives or socialistic voting records when she was in the Senate, before vice president. She had the same positions in California, even though you can call that being a tough on crime. Walls himself has been out spouting, if you read through the lines, straight socialistic messaging, which is progressive messaging too, because part of the even progressive there. But when you see her in a generalized statement, she is being very whatever. You've gone from a year. The squad is nowhere to be seen. The squad is gone. They're no round, if you think about it. Squad has been buried underneath a fucking pavement. Uh, what is it? Hell, half the loud, black, vocal, Muslim black Democrats, they got moved to the back burner. They're no longer on public television half the time. Well, they're still there. You see them on C-SPAN, you'll still see them. But they're not in positions of power. Like, it's a very interesting shift. Now, in the U.S., we call them the left, right? Because they peak about every 15, 20 years. They've been coming up. Then they'll go away for about another 80. I mean, last century, we didn't get rid of them. It was about Teddy Roosevelt, peaked around Wilson, really didn't end around till right when Roosevelt got in. So the idea when you talk about the difference between a leftist and progressive, right? The left movements in the world, some would call it right wing in other parts. Even like South America, right? The guy who took over some of their people, was it not Venezuela, but it's like the guy who took over, I think it's like Argentina or somewhere down there. They called him like the Latin American Trump kind of guy. He's actually made waves. Parts of Europe, the leftist regimes style like we have in the U.S. have been losing power. Now, it's probably largely due. Now you see online the screeching blue hair on Twitter, but do they actually vote? Do they still matter? I'm not saying that they don't. I mean, you still have a bunch of them in New York, areas that have fallen. Colorado used to be a purple state. Now it's like straight blue. Portland, Portland. I mean, Washington, Oregon, a lot of the Californian coast largely still was Democrat. I mean, hell, you can even look at that. But those areas, I don't see Republicans reclaiming that. I really don't. That's not going to happen. You'd have to vacate, nuke the population down to manageable number, and then make sure none of them have children. I hate saying that. You're not wiping out that generation of pure liberal streak that borderlines progressivism or communist. That's in Hollywood. Now, it's there to stay. I mean, hell, you could always hope the great earthquake that's going to strike California will break off Los Angeles into a prison island. One can hope. I joke about that, but that's kind of one of the leading theories that would happen, right? Part of Southern California just breaks off. But like New York City is a prime example. Or like, well, you even go back to the election of '08. Supposedly there wasn't a majority like black Republican voter. I mean, Republican voter period in Pennsylvania. Like at least Philadelphia. Philadelphia votes largely for Democrats. Like I've seen where Tony and then he talks, well, I'm in Chicago, it doesn't matter. Well, you're right, Chicago votes mostly blue. But those were areas that were under a different realm. They were under the progressives and the socialist wings of the parties for years. I remember 10, 15 years ago, Detroit. Like, what Chicago and Detroit look like now is pretty much what California is on the road or has parts of it have become. The rampant loss, except for the rampant loss in property values, people leaving the ghettos. Now, the problem is all those people still vote blue. That's an actual thing. They all vote blue. Now, don't ever think that's going to happen. When you're talking about, I don't think that's ever going to change. It's kind of like getting Texas and Oklahoma not to vote for a Republican, no matter what candidate you throw in our state. I mean, to be fair, that's different. I have to do a different series video on that because you're talking about it goes hand in hand with what's talking about with the idea. Because Democrats and people, like especially after the convention as well, Democrats have this dual identity. They're largely empowered by think tanks or social movements that they embrace. They embraced Antifa. They embraced Black Lives Matter. They embraced the violence of all of that. Never really said anything. But a lot of the people leading the party at the time, still most are, come from the civil rights era or from the 60s or 70s. They're activists. They don't know how to manage power, but they've been there. So old, half of them are dying in office. Hell, it wasn't until this year, Sheila Jackson Lee. I've known of Sheila Jackson Lee in Texas because she was like representative down in Houston for ages. Half my lifetime. Got to imagine, like that name has been kicked around. She turned that into an entire career. I love articles too, but this is something you see. Like, this is why you're seeing, like, Biden's policies, which was largely extended from the Obama administration, it's very similar. I mean, Biden even took parts of Trump's policies too that he never got to enact. Same as Kamala Harris is basically running on Trump policies, which she has no plans on enacting either. And I mean, if you look at your quality of your candidates as much as people, the right have Trump, who's semi-stable. You have the left had Biden, who had only raised $151 million prior to the debate. First debate, I should say. The second one's coming up here really soon, too. What does that speak to? People, donors. There's people involved in the Democrat Party. They're Democrat like a lobby group that makes the laws. You got a guy behind Vanity. He's like Bizarre or Vanity. You have some Indian tech billionaires, which are basically funding. They're like borderline James Bond villains, right? Google's being pressed into the corner. We'll have to do something on that, because what happened, it might happen to Google. See, Google and big tech have always leaned towards a left. I mean, that's a natural thing. An artist isn't going to be a conservative when it comes to defining tradition. They're usually in the buck traditional norms. Liberal being more rethinking in the way people are. So I feel like a lot of this, it's a long time coming. I might eat my own words. They may have a good sweep this year. 2 months. Part of it, I don't think it. So you have the left as it stands, right? So a lot of people forget how the left came to power. Most people don't think about it. I was listening to Dane recently. He's like, well, chuds are going to lose money or whatever, like delete channels. It's not very common. I have said the left eat their own. They always eat their own. See, this was funny. This is from January 12th. I'm going to read the whole thing. You go through it. Like, this is... See, this is what start of the year. Let's go from here. As the 2024 campaign ramps up, stalwart Democrats are starting to panic over Biden's re-election prospects. This even as most pandemic recovery has been unparalleled among Western nations. The economy is growing at a rapid clip. Unemployment remains near lows. Debatable. Green manufacturing and infrastructure have soared, which is probably needed, but not the way they think. And if it was actually done, it would be a lot better. And I brought that up in that whole, when I went over the other half of the fairgrounds at the Trump assassination. Supposedly, we still have, you'd be shocked how much, when they say they want to do infrastructure, neither party really does it. You're not talking about modernizing roads. You're not, something lead in pipes as much as, why in the middle of nowhere do we still have technology that's 50, 40, 50 years old? Why do we still have power plants? Prime example, Democrats were largely to blame for Flint, Michigan, the contamination that broke out there. the hell, infrastructure. The administration has a stifling pro-worker posture. Now, the person right, it is a weird thing. Because if you go back to the start of the year, it's not like Trump is well liked. Trump is his own enemy. Like, dangerously unpopular for a president who has advanced so much to break from neoliberalism. Remember this word. Remember the word neoliberalism. Now, neoliberalism has been a tie to why the left is breaking down. It's very similar to neoconservatives that knocked them out of power for damn near a generation. Well, Republicans as a whole. Wow. Amounts of austerity and free market and market fundamentalism, prominent voices of the left have decided to desperate revival of state capitalism. While the Rust Belt small town key sites for Biden industrial have remained doubtful of the administration's outreach. Many voters indicate they are dissatisfied with the economy and convinced that would handle it better. Now, every president as good as their last policy. Trump may have had some international blunders, which I don't like. I don't think he listened to the international community as much as he did on the Russian problem. Like, if we had a strong administration, Ukraine invasion wouldn't have happened. Then again, you wouldn't see the collapse nearing Russia either, where supposedly Ukrainian army occupies like 40 to 50 miles, something like that, into Russia, which is funny. But Biden's economy isn't good. Trump's economy, at least, was healthier. You can say what you want about the rich. There's always going to be the rich. This is what I said. He's going to come back to Google. He's going to come back to these companies. A lot of these billionaires who've been voting Democrat, Musk is one of the rare ones that broke from tradition, probably. He realized the game being played. Right? Because servicing the debt right now is going to be bad within the next year. Like, our debt to GDP ratio is going up. And there's no way without seizing assets. This is just the person, right? So you have to look at this. This is actually a really good article I found. There's a couple. Now, you're saying like Biden is. This person thinks, right? What accounts for these doldrums? The short answer is that while it has been laudable elements, the administration and congressional Democrats have failed to make progress towards a new equitable social contract. See, this is key. They can't really do that. They took power. They took power by tribalism. This failure owes to contingent developments like the war in Gaza or the preannual zealotry of the GOP hawks. Bullshit on that. I mean, I think a lot of people have been asking for budgeting for a while. I mean, we're not even talking austerity measures because the whole game of chicken, right? The whole actual game of chicken of who's going to start the economic collapse is going to be that. Whether it follows from a modern logic of modern progressivism, which blends neoliberal identity politics and the worst forms of sectarian leftism. Now, this is something to remember. Progressives are not leftist. Republicans have their own. Though Wilson, by far, was one of the biggest, most racist presidents ever. But the last century, they spawned out of Republicans and they spawned out of the right wing in the US. Because it's the era between about 1910 through about the 1930s when you started to see the spring in the more radical ideologies. Communism, which was Marxism, fascism, Nazis, etc., all popped up in this time. Flourished under the idea of the progressive band, which is very similar to now. But progressives are rather different. Leftism has kind of died because a lot of them are all messages or that. I think I've shown that in some of the, when you look at the Trump assassination hearing, they don't really care about the details anymore. I mean, it's weird when you have AOC who's called this election bunk. I mean, so the idea is they want them to go back to the New Deal. I mean, border has been an issue. I disagree on this. If you ask anyone what is Biden's achievement during his presidency, I can't really think of one. To be honest with you. Besides Afghanistan imploding, leaving equipment there, Gaza blowing up, and I mean, that's a big deal too. That actually is taking a lot out of the Democrats too, because it's actually exposing the anti-Semitism in the Democratic Party to like a zenith, which is a really big thing. That's why she didn't choose the Jewish guy. And see what's funny in this article too, right? It's not like saying that Trump was better, right? You could say, well, how he handled the pandemic, etc., etc. Like, I know about the hearings on the inside, right? We knew about the weapons lab. We knew about the research, gain of function research. Now, see, here's the big thing, right? Biden's unquestioning support for Israel's brutal attack following Hamas's October 7th is very big, going to be a very big day, and we're coming up on a year of that. Right. See, Michigan has a high rate of. See, Michigan has a very high rate of Muslims and Indians, etc. It's like Dearborn's one of the biggest cities for it, or used to be. Like, and this is something people don't get. And it's what's weird is, Democrats have had all the ground in the world. Like, you see a lot of Democratic or leftist agendas push through, and something I'll have to touch on. They think people want it, but they don't want it. See, like, the economy hasn't improved. I mean, arguably it was better under Trump. Money went farther. There wasn't inflation. There wasn't as bad. You could buy more for what we had. $100 in groceries was different. Well, now you got post-COVID, and you can blame that for all you want. Supply chain issues out of the ass, availability, right? Oh, shit. That's what's hitting the average normie. It's going beyond the tribalism. It's like when I talked to my friend in New York, up there. It's weird, right? See, this is something people don't know. So, like, you're talking about, and it's funny that later on in this article they talk about it. See, the supply side stuff has been way out of whack. See, it goes back to here, right? Third wave centrism. Right? So progressives, he notices it about 2008. I think it's always been there. It takes them, see, momentum built through Occupy Wall Street, which was embraced by the Democrats, which, that gave rise to like the area of Tim Pool, got his coverage from there. It's like the billionaire class, a new generation of activists, left-wing politicians. See, what people call progressives, right? The issue is progressives like to tear down the social norms. But it's pretty synonymous. Like, they can't really change it. Republicans have their own as well of progressives. Largely, you could say sometimes you see them as the uniparty who oppose things. Which I know is a weird term, but it does exist. If they don't like something in Washington, they're there. So, this is a whole deal too, right? Progressive strategies have two counter arguments. Regeneration in the left field, corporate Democrats. This is a big deal. I heard this too, and this is where they have the identity issue currently, especially the wake of the DNC. Hassan said this, and they were activists. But yeah, I didn't realize, all the money sloshing around, right? The average Democrat voter is ignoring the whole fact that the DNC is getting flushed. Kamala Harris got flushed with a bunch of billionaire money, who was literally brought in by the same court ruling that I was told by one of my friends. He's very devout, progressive guy, socialistic guy, talked to in a couple of years, was our older gentleman, was basically a corporate policy that foreign money could get involved. Democrats have been using that to a far degree. They last 20 midterms, Republicans should have cleaned house. They couldn't do it. Democrats couldn't secure their seat either. Yeah, see here. See, progressive states are somewhat weak. Performance, right? So when it comes to actual governance, they're not doing well. How is Chicago? Chicago had one of the highest murder rates a month or so ago. It was around July 4th. California is going straight downhill. The hell, too. I mean, the idea of the cyberpunk future, right? You could say it because they don't understand. It's because of the activists, right? Like a lot of the young people who are voting Democrat now, or at least raised in it, it's like half the millennials, the middle old, some of the late. I would say it's about the early. It's like you have Short Fat Otaku as a prime example. He is a guy who would not call himself a progressive, while he would easily go with any progressive policy. Like the guy I call Edward or Ed Cook kind of does the same because he doesn't realize this is what he does. It's a very strange thing. Because to understand progressive movement, you need to go back almost 100 years, like give or take. Time of Wilson, slightly before. I mean, to be honest, Wilson was the biggest piece of shit. Like state control, right? Because the Google's basically threatened. Much of the problem pertains to the space, geographic, social, professional, and ideological. The progressives have occupied since Obama's 2008 election. As a difficult recovery of 2010s wore on, search for opportunity have further pulled into blue coastal sea areas, where grassroots activism is more likely to provide a ladder to professional networks afforded by liberal civil society. Over time, the enmeshment with the winners of the common economy knowledge economy would undermine the larger realignment project. See, that's very key. Like currently, the left is divided amongst what do you do with a lot of these people. Like, I challenge someone to tell me something that Kamala Harris has done good during this administration, or done anything from a valid source. You can't name it. She's anointed. She got anointed. Why? She's a black Indian and the first potential president. First black vice president. Indian person of color. BIPOC, basically. As they used to call them. That acronym is no longer even the full acronym. They broke down their party into straight acronyms. Oh, you're not a immigrant, you're not you're just a white person? We don't need you. If you are, you're going to be just in the back of the bus behind the Black Lives Matter protesters. I'm going to say that didn't happen. But it did. That's the thing. It's happened over a while, and this article, too, is really good. Like, this is funny, right? Like, the idea. See, progressives fire, like the neoliberal elites. They call it neoliberalism, right? It's a very different. You have Ibram X. Kendi, who I've talked with Gray before about. Like, he's largely, these people don't have it. You have the apologist for Hamas apologists. You have the changes in how they view social justice, their view on crime. But it's not solving Chicago's issues. Now, what's weird is this has gotten into gaming. Was it intersectionality, right? You see this right here. You would think you have a generation of people built upon. At the same time, look. Their own worst enemy is their own creativity. See, I haven't gone into the whole thing about Concord. Concord was marketed as LGBTQ plus game, etc., etc. Oh, we're all friendly. Come support us. The game was dead as an actual game and went to free to play in less than 14 days. About 14 days. After like 7, 8, like after years of development. It was dead on arrival. Dustborn, same way. What? Think Chuds did that? No. Chuds didn't do that. There's a broader question to start asking yourself here. Normies don't want it. I think it's us said on Renowned Stream to ask, which way Western man? Like, I've seen Dane over a while. He doesn't read or watch anime or manga. He doesn't read manga or watch anime. I mean, hell, Edward told me himself he doesn't like it, and even Akira's. Everything outside of Akira's ass. It doesn't make sense now, does it? But these are the same people who will go after someone online. That's what I said too, and I may have to have people on a little panel talk about it. It's not the idea, right? Because you got this idea of people in the West. They see an image of a childish character that looks like a lolicon type. They'll immediately think sexual. They'll look at RGE's art with no pretense. There's no nudity, no nothing, but they'll call it something. It goes into the depth of nuance, the depth of understanding. This is why I think a lot of people, the left has literally infected so many people. Like, it is falling. It is imploding, but it is taking cultural stuff with it. Let they go, but it looks like kids. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole debate where a child like a lolicon is bad, but a furrier little short stack goblin, that's fine amongst their community. I guess one person's kinks is another. I guess another person's hatred is another person's kinks. Though furries should still be the bottom of the fucking barrel. And I'm going to be getting into the whole yiff situation. Largely fostered in this era by left-leaning people to get around a lot of these norms. Are measures meant to keep stuff in place. Japan actually quietly did away with certain tags being available because of this reason. Now, largely, does it still exist? That's why I say I think a lot of leftist culture is actually imploded. Like, it's real time, but the Republicans haven't been able to gain any positions. Like, if you go back and you look, basically, we're also in that weird spot too. Like, and this is something you'll see. Is the left losing? And you can arguably go it was by a whisker. Yes, very close. Could happen again. Like, if we're like talking current, what is it? Let me see, what do they say? What RCP polls right now? Like, you can go to Europe, right? they're losing. Globally, they're losing. What's arguably happening in Europe is you're seeing a rise in nationalism again. This is how close our politics are right now. Because this is of current. Okay? Ask Rasmussen. 46-47. Biden's job approval rating, 54-45. Disapprove +9. Arizona, Trump. Nevada is neck and neck, basically. Pennsylvania is tied, and that's a battleground state. Harris is up in Michigan. I mean, arguable. Georgia's weird because a lot of Democrats in the time moved down to Georgia. Let's see. And what's funny is a lot of this, right, shouldn't be a thing. Trump's ahead in Michigan. Depending on it, the sampling and how many turn out, because a lot of Republicans aren't going to care about the polls. This is how close a lot of our elections are currently. She cannot campaign on any positions. Yeah, by the way, Maryland is I think it's what? It's like Virginia. It's decided very much by the population centers. They're not doing well. Virginia is decided by the 4 counties below D.C. Good luck on that one. You need 3 out of those 4 to win the state. Doesn't matter if you get the rest of the state itself. But a lot of these numbers, right, they're talking Nevada, but this is Bloomberg. Bloomberg can oversample. Which I mean, poll numbers at this point. It's like if you're asking a lot of stuff here. Like how Georgia would, I guess this is this week's. These things are within the margin of error. Okay. That's how bad it is. A lot of polls are heavily favoring, people who are doing polls are very heavily favoring. But Trump is the good odds. But it's also going to come down to, it's this right here. Wrong track. Right here. This number. 63.4%. And who's the party in power now? That's the Democrats and that's leftists. That is the progressives in a lot of states. We kind of talked about both, but the idea of the progressives worm their way in through the Democrats. It's a very weird thing. They're kind of one and the same when you look at it. They're not doing great. Because polls, you could say what it is. Because a lot of candidates say what you want. But the problem is pushing back against the narrative is hard. I don't. I think progressives have taken it on the chin too, because if you look at like the Acolyte as a prime example, the Acolyte was made for Raylos. It was made for the Twitter blue people, the blue-haired people on Twitter, with the queer baiting, everything else, the weird stuff in it. Star Wars, parts of the MCU, but they're not buying the product. There is no mass market, right? There is no mass market for it. Black Myth Wukong is a prime example. Apolitical game. Different. Dustborn, by the way, didn't get off the ground, and that is marketed towards progressives and liberals. Goodbye Volcano High is a prime example. A lot of Sweet Baby Ink games. They don't buy it. What is it like? Well, you get a game like Space Marine 2. I guarantee you that might break a Steam sale and might break numbers. Black Myth Wukong broke at like 2.8 million. Like it's like one of the highest records, multiple highest records. Okay. Oh, and a lot of people got pissed off because call it the chuds, call it the sexism, call it misogyny. Like, no. It's a game, it's apolitical. Democrats have lost the normies. Progressives have lost them. I mean, Republicans arguably don't know how to appeal to some of them. I mean, all you can go to them is ask, because it's independents that usually decide the election. Let's say it's you're in New York. That's why I have to get Patrick's perspective and maybe like Gray's. Like, independents in California would lean towards Democrats. Independents in Texas would lean towards Republicans. Like you see here on September 5th is a prime example. Her troubling view on censorship, how she would govern. You're talking turnout. Like, this is all up in the air. It's pretty bad. Like, I don't think, and Kamala Harris is still tied to, like, what? Saying Michigan's a +5? That's padded towards Democrats. A lot of these polls are padded towards Democrats. I've seen stuff. It's the family of Walt doesn't want to vote for him. Half the Democrats themselves that are realizing they're the students, right? They're realizing that the progressives, that the party are now controlling it. And this is a strange thing going on. I don't think they're going good. And it's going to be funny. Actually, that does remind me, when is the debate? When is the next presidential debate? Yeah, so Tuesday. Oh shit! So that's coming up next week. That it broke Biden. Last one. This is a woman that could not get past the first debate with Tulsi Gabbard. Um, she crumbled. Let me see. To fight it. The Tulsi Gabbard debate. It was so good. So this was 4 years ago. Okay. So I just apologize for no sound. You can find this. I have those captions on. 4 years ago, Tulsi Gabbard, right? Tulsi Gabbard has recently said the system was rigged from the start. AOC's hinted at it was rigged as well. So the question, right, is, and she's actually was an active military person who retired. And she still votes Democrat, surprisingly. But she had a realization a lot of them were bad. See, she backed Trump. So the question is, she's proud of her record on criminals and throwing black people, brown people, and people in law enforcement into California. So she threw people in prison. She threw 1,500 people into California. See, this was actually the moment, one of the leading moments. I wonder if people discovered this recently. Let's see. So she couldn't manage any of her funds. And she eventually got her clock claimed. Like for cheap labor for California. She laughed about when she would smoke marijuana. There's like stuff about her. Before she was a lawyer, etc. Like her debate, but bear in mind, she's been vice president for 4 years, has done nothing. Then they said she wasn't the border czar. The bail system. Now, if you look at that phase that just happened, right? That's total defeat. Most of the Democrats lost faith in her right after this. Uh-huh. Say I've seen this in years. She basically, second time, Tulsi Gabbard ended her. Like, I'm just, it was a fact. This is a person in 4 years, which is now the presidential candidate, who doesn't do any off the cuff. No. No. She could barely get into anywhere in the primary. She was chosen by Biden to plug up a hole that he had in his Democratic voter base. A BIPOC, a black Indian woman. This is something where I talk about, like, progressives have lost sight of the message. She is the poster child of progressivism. Hollow, a lot of promises, doesn't work out. And if she got elected, you're looking at the death of America. Constitution's on its way out. I firmly believe it. Within my lifetime. It's already mostly ignored anyways. Because these people don't care. Like, this look that she has. It's a smirk and a smug look. She does this to this day. Ugh. Fucking bastard. Well, I mean, sorry. The man gets like a pre-issue copy, but he's like your average gamer. But you can go back and look at her. Like, she's not like, she doesn't do well. And there's a lot of padding for her. Like, this is something, and you look at it. And it should go into where I'll transition to the point of the vocal majority versus a silent majority. Silent majority usually decides the election. But hypothetically, so if you look at like election coverage, see what's funny. A lot of stuff you'll see, like, that's it too. Like, we'll see how well she does. Like, supposedly she wouldn't talk to CNN without uh, without walls being there. Don't know if that's true or not. largely about these, right? Because you don't really see anything. If you go into the algorithm, a lot of these are decided by um, oh yeah, this was a one here, right? These were Democrats, right? These were supposed to debate. This coverage, you can go back and look at this from the debate, the last one. Democrats were in disarray, and largely they still are. Like, Biden would be a slam dunk. Kamala Harris isn't better, but I don't think she can actually. But yeah, like, it goes back to saying, like, when you look at Twitter, you see a vocal minority. The vocal minority, they're like the unicorns in the rough. Go to a YouTube channel. It's a prime example. Um, so look here, actual fandoms channel. Dane. Look at his live streams. Okay. They're lefties to the damn core. Okay. Look how active his base is. He lives in Portland too, by the way. And if you go back to views, he doesn't get views. You know? He's not getting in his views. But he goes, oh, these chud channels are dead. No, unless you can craft an image, you're dead. Let me say something. Oh god, he's taking shots at Vosh. Let me see. Vosh about what does he has? 470,000. So let's say 11 months ago, he's so it's down a lot of his streams. So is he no longer doing live here? 1 day ago? So let's go. What is the popular, right? So it's popular is like 1-2 million. It was like 3 years ago when he's blowing up. Now he's only getting like cutting up his streams, only he's getting like 148. And this is something when I say the silent majority, right, are the normie type population, whether it's in gaming, whether it's in things. Now, I'll have to break that into a subcategory later on. These people are what decide a lot of things. It's not your shuds or whatever. When you have lost the plot, look, progressives and Democrats can't even move the needle upon the acolyte to bring it back to say it's a good show. But they go, oh, it's Chuds and the racists and everybody that killed him. No, that's not why. Let me see. Let's see. Let me see. Hassan Piker's channel. Hassan. Let's say his latest is 17,000 views, 800. What is this popular? It's 3.8 million. We're talking like 4 years ago, right? 1.1, 2 years ago, he was hitting. So these numbers, right? He was hitting basically 1 year ago videos. Now if you go to his latest, look at his view numbers. They're half. They're less. Something is definitely up, right? Man who got kicked out of the DNC like broadcasting spot because he decided to be a jackass. Now, if you want to go to, let's go to the Young Turks. Let's go look at the Young Turks as a prime example. What is their popular? So 14 years ago, right? I mean, a little bit that they've been around a while. Oof. Let's say popular, right? Because TYT years ago used to be so much better. Wow. Yeah. Well, they used to be independent. So these are views, right? If you look to their view to their base, they have 6 million views, subs. But they can only get like 65K views on a clip that's 12 hours old. 103 12 hours. And they're not doing multiple uploads a day. They're what? They're breaking. Shit. They're basically breaking. They're barely breaking on average less than 200,000 views on a video. So what, they go 110? They don't do live streams anymore. It's weird because, see, the vocal minority, right? They'll want a game like Star Wars Outlaws, right? They'll want, but ask how many people like it. All right? It's a mediocre game. Even Skill Up said it was. For almost 3/4 of the game. Okay? So about 2/3 of the game, it's trash. Now, arguably, well, how long it's been in the works, right? Since the license came up from Massive, Democrat, liberal people online go, oh, this is a popular thing. Oh, I'm not even having to type in, it's not a bad trailer. Right? Look, final trailer, 2.4 million views for Black Myth Wukong. So, just peak interest. No one wanted this game. 357. I mean, come to a year ago. I'd be curious. What does that say about it? No one doubts it's a beautiful game to a degree, right? It looks decent. There's parts of the game that are really beautiful, but a lot of the mechanics are junky. Like cult, by the way, I haven't even talked about this one, right? This is just a dumpster fire. Like, I, it's the idea. They all want it. They want, like, let's say Concord trailer, right? On PlayStation. This game died in 14 days. Every character had a pronoun. You know, get a trans character. They go, oh, looks generic. And I'm waiting for them to blame the people. It's just generically trash. And it's something we knew was. Oh, it's just a bunch of non binary robots? A bunch of blue haired and purple people? Again, Democratic and left leaning people think that's what you want in a video game. Right? But did they buy it? No. You think they saw it? No. And we all know the story of Acolyte. Basically, it's gone free to play. It doesn't. I mean, this is a weird one here. I'm waiting. I mean, GTA 6 could be a dumpster fire as well. I mean, hell, last I checked. Yeah, like this character here. You know, look at the fat. You want to play the fat, like, black non-binary chick. Oh, you want to play this one? No. This is not what players ask for. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I mean, more people would rather play Black Myth Wukong than actually watch it, right? No one asked for these characters, right? They don't look like it. And it's something as I think I've said to, like, Ben. Hold on. I have to find that. Hey. The idea, right? A lot of what you call the silent majority of gamers, we mostly only care like you can largely see it, right? Hypothetically. You know? These, when you look at them, right here. They don't do that in the West, okay? Almost one for one, right? This is a Spiders. I think it's one of the Spider Sisters. One for one. Ah, Fox Girl, yes. You see? Fox Girl. There are no waifus in the game, though. I mean, they look roughly the same, right? When you look at them. You look at the mothers. It's one for one. Okay. Yeah, we're not talking. Yeah, you like literally, I think, talking how they did it. But bear in mind, you go look at. This is something I may have to do. So here you are. Very key, right? And sorry if I'm using bounding into comics, okay? I dislike it. Fine. I hate it. God damn it. Give me a fucking. Just want this. So, look at this. This is what you see in the West, right? A decently attractive woman, and this is what they do to her. Oh, well, look at Cameron Monaghan from Jedi Survivor. And his. Mostly one for one, but not for women. Oh, you got to give her the chin. This is something when I say the silent majority, a lot of progressives miss. Like, these characters don't look like this. I haven't talked about it. It's one of those things. I haven't got around to it. I got Space Marine 2 to do. Right. These. In the whole idea, which way Western man, right? Part of the argument goes, how do you do this? It ties into a lot of what leftist message that's lost. You see it in the culture. Star Wars Outlaws has kind of failed. It's being played as a meme. Now, Assassin's Creed Shadows, regardless what you think about the game, is going to sell a shit ton. It's Assassin's Creed. Okay? It's Assassin's Creed. I mean, hell, half the gameplay looks decent. Do you want to play a bruiser? Play a terrible black samurai that is non-historical. Neither of his characters are his historical. Like, look, even the men, right, in Black Myth Wukong look similar. I mean, arguably, right? You know, if you can go the Monkey King, you're gonna have to not gonna look very much like him. You know, it's so like people go, and this is something I'll have to touch upon, right? In the thing. Well, I'll get into it because I haven't done a review for Black Myth Wukong, but this is going to come up because the models, right? When you look at them, they don't do anything to them. It's a one for one. But yeah, but a lot of the leftist messaging, Twitter views, I mean, their stuff are down. Like, I've heard people say, like, the Chud channels die, and this is where I'm going to get gray. It's going to be funny. Like, when we get it, you get into it. I mean, But yeah, I mean, we're pretty close. But see, I would say I would start Space Marine at 12 or 12:30. Then I realize I have an appointment at like 2. Something I have to go do. My Thursdays are always busy. Like 2 o'clock. I'd be that or I'd be rude and muted for an hour. Which would feel rude to me. But it's lunch. I mean, I need to pay for it, but I can pay for it. I have those things. But yeah, that's my other plan today. But, but yeah, I'm gonna have to do another part to this because the vocal minority, right, and majority, it's very weird. It's like if you go look at Twitter, the prime example is. I'll leave it on that because it's an interesting point. You see a lot of the gay people, the trans people, the furry people, the flags at the top. But how many people like that have you ever run into in real life? You know? Think about it. This is special. Oh, God. The QTE puzzle. I got through that the other day. Oh, yeah, I can already see it, right? Like, Eric can see a lot of these channels that I do. And I care more about information, so. But you would think by Twitter's presence, by the way, by Twitter's presence, you would think all these vocal idiots are everywhere on the street. No, unless you're in Portland or you're somewhere. Does that make sense to people? Run into a blue checkmark IRL. Those people will redefine your life. And you will see how out of place they are. Okay? But they're like finding a C in a needle in a goddamn haystack. Okay? They're not real. You know? I haven't got into the whole one. By the way, I am going to say this on the record right now. Very conflicted to pay $90 for a goddamn video game for 4 days access. And I'll be very pissed off if it is only 10 hours of gameplay. Again, I need a live service game. Like I need a hole in my head at this point. This is where my conflict is. I'm just like, but anyways, that is a separate matter. But back to my main point. The concept is the vocal minority person online. This could be anybody. Still has respect of the majority of people. Unless you're just a wacko. You don't see people like that IRL. Because they would be made fun of. That's something you gotta look at. A lot of stuff just dies on a vine, right? That's what people don't get. It just dies on a vine. Oh, Hogwarts Legacy recommended for use, $21 right now. Yeah, no, you think I play that? Hey, but yes, I'll leave with that because like Hogwarts Legacy is a prime example too. Leftist people hated it and screeched about it. Silent majority loved it. It got snubbed at the awards. Black Myth Wukong, I'll be surprised if it gets snubbed or not snubbed. So take it for what it's worth. I mean, Space Marine 2 is a prime example. Is it going to be A-okay or is it going to be blah? I don't know. I think it's going to be have its parts. It's going to be good or it's going to be mid. So, like if I play, I'm born between about 2 p.m. and 3. There will be no sound except for game. So, I don't want to be rude to people. Let the gameplay speak for itself if I do it. But, I mean, granted, I have my other thing. It's like Space Marine 2 is weird. But it goes back to what I'm saying. Like, the vocal minority, right? They'll say they want something. Great example here. We want something. We want this in Marvel. We want a Harley Quinn story. We want Suicide Squad. You're not giving her what she's due. You're not giving Kamala Khan what she's due. But they don't participate in the product either. Give you prime proof of this mess. You know, it's the guy himself, right? It's very strange. Okay. But I'm still feeling slightly better. But like it's something I'll go into. Like I'm gonna go into this more. So sorry for the yawn, but like you can look at Dane's channel, you can look at that, right? And it's one of those weird ones. Like when you actually look into the minutia of people, you'll see their views are down. But it's not being shared by the many. You're seeing a lot of leftist circles coalesce. It's like I'll catch the occasional blurred without fear, like video. But I realize the guy is an absolute just waste of space. I mean, the dude literally is dancing around issues. Like, he won't talk about the allegations of what went on with X-Men 97. He won't talk about that. The stuff with Bo DeMaio. But him, basically Robo both, who used to actually work with Dane, they both admit it. Like, half these people, right? You see their stuff. They're very political. They do it. It's like, but I'll be I'll be the first to call the man a piece of shit. Okay. Hold on a second. Here. This crap. Like this. Robo, right? So he does. Like, here. He's supposedly an ex-military recruiter as well. A lot of these people have gone down from here. They're not really people. And the thing about it is, what's funny about these, forget how old Ernie is. See, Ernie basically married a white woman, basically. He married a white woman, and I guess he has a kid himself. One of her kids turned out to be non-binary for a year, then went trans. Did the other one, and he's like takes care of the kid, right? But he said that was his catalyst for going very far into far left. But he was a left-leaning guy who just fell off. Robo, on the other hand, is in the degeneracy that these people, and they act like these are your poster children, and they're slightly older than me. Some of them, I think Robo's older than me. But he's clearly like, oh, he was a disinfected liberal in the 90s and he broke off. This is another phenomenon I got to go into because there's a whole aspect. Because the other half, right, I could easily go into. Republicans have suffered for a while. Like, if this man came out as full-blown lefty, he wouldn't have a channel. These views that he has would plummet. Because he can't take criticism. And I never recommend reading his Twitter. He rivals Mighty Keith as being a retard. You know? He absolutely does. I'll decide I'll leave it right here and I'll go to the other. So we have questions too. I'll probably have something because Patrick and Gray should be freed up. And I'll be curious because Patrick lives in New Jersey, not the one I know that lives in New York. It'll be very interesting about the situation where he is. See, like, a lot of people too. I think next week will be so about 3:00. I don't know. I start it for 1. I might be able to get in an intro, depending on how long it takes to download. So, yep, pains I do. I probably got to forego though. I think I'm gonna probably forego Frostpunk 2. I want to find Frostpunk 2 a little cheaper. I'm going to see if the extra $30 on Space Marine makes up for what it is. Skins ain't going to sell me. Then again, right, there's supposedly 3 planets. So we'll find out. Anyways, I'll be off when I download it. And if you have any questions, thoughts down below. I'm going to probably do another parts of the series. I mean, if I have to. And I probably will. Because the idea of the decline of the left has been going on a while. Like, I don't think they have actual support. I think push comes to shove. It's not there. It's not because I live where I live, I say that. You can go look outside. See how many people actually support Kamala Harris. Or ask the people who support that opposition. Most people know better. I will leave people be and catch people later. I'll go download this and be stream later for this. For Space Marine 2. Should be fun. I will have co-op campaigns planned too.